This took 2 times trying to come to this park because I drove here. I was so confident, and then I realized I forgot my mic, so I had to drive all the way home in order to get my mic in order to come back here to film this video. I am filming this video the day after I filmed my first episode of talking about recent reads in my car while I drink coffee. A very specific mood. And I am very excited for this portion of this series because the next set of books that I read were really good and I cannot wait to talk about them. So before I begin this, if you have not seen the first episode, you definitely should. I basically am going to talk about all the books that I've been recently reading. I'm going to split up this series by 10 books. Anyway, let me open up Goodreads because I can't remember the order that I read my books. Okie dokie. Let's get right into this. So the 10th book that I read in 2019 is The Spy with the Red Balloon by Katherine Locke. I adore Katherine Locke's writing. I think she's such an amazing author, a very underrated author in YA, in new adult, that I feel like more people should read. So this novel centers around 2 siblings. They are really close with each other. One is named Ilse and one is named Wolf, and they get separated. Ilse has to go to, I believe it's North Carolina, to work on a Manhattan Project because she's very smart, she's very good at math, she's very good at science, and her brother Wolf has to go to England to become a spy during World War II. I really enjoyed this historical fiction novel because it had a lot of magical elements woven into it. I also really enjoyed the fact that these 2 siblings were so close to each other. They had such a close bond because if you know me, hold on. If you know me, you know I'm tired of seeing siblings fight in pop culture and in media. I wish there were more healthy sibling relationships, and this one definitely has that, and I really enjoyed it. I did not like it as much as The Girl with the Red Balloon, which is the first book in the Balloon Maker series. That one was phenomenal. That one is set after World War II. It has to deal with the Berlin Wall. It's very good. I highly recommend both of them either way, and yes, I really enjoyed that one. The next book I read, I have a copy. I bring all my copies in my tote bag and everyone stares at me when I hold up these books, but it's fine! The next book that I read was A Reaper at the Gates by Sabaa Tahir, and this was so freaking amazing. I tried reading this physically first, and I couldn't really get into it because fantasy narratives are very hard for me to get into. It's very hard for me to get gripped by it, so I'm like, I'm going to listen to it on audiobook. And listening to it on audiobook changed the game for me. I'm only going to listen to Sabaa Tahir's books on audiobook. I believe it's 4 different narrators for this novel, and I hate Helene, but I really enjoyed her because of the audiobook. I got to relate more to her, I got to enjoy her narrator, and I just really enjoyed this novel. I can't tell you anything about it because spoilers, this is the 3rd novel in the series, but things are happening, things are leaving off on cliffhangers. I am waiting for the 4th book, and I just need my sweet children to be okay. This was a great novel, and I'm so glad I read it on audiobook. It really changed the entire experience for me. The next novel that I read is Circe, and this was the best time ever. I am obsessed with Madeline Miller. She is one of my favorite authors ever. She wrote The Song of Achilles, and that is one of my favorite novels ever, and Circe was no different. Circe was just as good as The Song of Achilles. This follows Circe, who is a lesser known goddess. She is the daughter of Helios, who is the god of the sun, but she knows how to do magic. So she starts using magic to help this mortal become a god, and once that happens, they kind of punish her because you're not supposed to use magic. So they punish her to this island, which is very remote. She's by herself. She's going to live the rest of her life on this island, and basically this entire story follows Circe's life. It follows her as she meets Odysseus, as she deals with other gods who are very well known, and I just enjoyed it so much. Madeline Miller has this very in-depth poetic writing that I really enjoy. I know a lot of people can't get into it. Hold on, someone's driving near me. Okay, she's driving away. I know a lot of people can't get into Madeline Miller because her writing style is much more descriptive based rather than based on dialogue, but I really enjoy that because you get to learn so much more about Circe's thoughts, Circe's past, Circe's family. The ending is a little weird. It's still good though. I really enjoyed it. I did not love it as much as the Song of Achilles, but the writing style was still phenomenal. She's just a queen of Greek mythological retellings, and anything that she writes I will buy, and I am rooting for a Hades and Persephone retelling. Everyone keeps on telling me that she said that she doesn't want to write Greek mythology anymore. I feel like Hades and Persephone deserve a story by Madeline Miller, and yes, she is a phenomenal author. Highly recommend. So the next novel that I read, I think in like one sitting, because it's a very short novel that I've spoken about in my previous book haul, which I will link down below. It is called Lie With Me by Philippe Besson, and this is a novel set during the 80s in France. So these two guys in high school, or whatever the equivalent is in France, they decide to have a love affair that is very secret. Nobody else can know about it, and it's basically showcasing how first love and first relationships can stick with you for a lifetime, even after they end. And this novel is so sad. It's compared to Call Me By Your Name, and I do get the Call Me By Your Name vibes because it's set outside of America. It's about these two boys falling in love, but it's very different because this writing style is much more direct and blunt compared to Call Me By Your Name, which is much more lyrical and kind of just like musings that Elio has. This is much more direct, and this is much sadder because the entire story is sad, but it was good nonetheless. I really enjoyed it. If you want something similar to Call Me By Your Name, I would recommend it, but just know that the writing style is not the same. So you might be a little bit disappointed there because Call Me By Your Name's writing is beautiful and changed me, but Lie With Me was still good either way. Did I tailor my whole entire outfit and scrunchie around my coffee mug? Yes. So the next novel that I read on audiobook is Out of the Easy by Ruta Sepetys. This is solely because I want to read all of Ruta Sepetys' books because she's one of my favorite authors. She writes historical fiction. Can you tell that I love historical fiction novels? And this one is set in New Orleans. This is about a daughter of a sex worker who is trying to make it out of New Orleans, but everything is pushing against her and keeping her there. I enjoyed the novel besides the fact that the main character is so negative and judgmental towards sex workers, and I just don't agree with that at all, and it was just so prevalent within this narrative, and I was just like tired of it, of her making fun of them. And it's just like everyone has their own careers. Some people have to do more serious careers, and you shouldn't judge them for that. So that's what annoyed me about it. And I wouldn't say this is Ruta Sepetys' best book. It's very forgettable. I feel like I wouldn't think about it long after I've read it, unlike her other books where I continually think about them. This one was just kind of forgettable. The next book that I read in like 2 sittings was The Sun Is Also a Star, which is the cutest book ever. I cannot wait for the movie. The movie's going to be phenomenal. Oh my god. The Sun Is Also a Star is about these 2 different people. One is named Natasha and one is named Daniel. Natasha is about to get deported the next day because she is an undocumented Jamaican immigrant with her family, and Daniel is a Korean American boy who is applying to, I believe, Harvard or Yale, one of those, and they bump into each other one day in New York City, and Daniel very much has his head in the clouds, and he decides to tell Natasha, who is an absolute stranger, that he will somehow make her fall in love with him by the end of the day. The premise feels very insta-lovey, but once you read the novel, it's not insta-lovey because there's so many things that happen within this novel that just kind of changes the characters and helps them grow and helps them learn and helps them develop. And by the time they fall in love, you don't feel like it happened in one day. You feel like you've been following them for years. And what I really liked about this story is the fact that these chapters are so short, and I think that's why you can read it so quickly because they are just so short and sweet. And I also like how there will be like a fleeting character that bumps into Natasha or Daniel, and you kind of hear their judgments about them, but then you get a chapter about that stranger and you get to learn more about their life and why they acted that certain way and what's pushing them through life. And it kind of reminds you that you shouldn't judge other people by your simple one interaction you have with them on the street, in a city, etc. It shows you that everyone has something going on with their life and they're all trying to deal with it, and you shouldn't be so quick to judge. And this is such a philosophical, romantic story, and it's like one of my favorite contemporaries in YA. I am so glad I read it right before the movie, and I am so excited for the movie. I feel like the movie is going to be amazing, and I feel like they can do no wrong. It's so good. I love it. I love it so much. So the next novel that I read digitally is Trade Me by Courtney Milan. I've heard about this novel a lot on book Twitter because a lot of people talk about it on book Twitter, so I decided to give it a try. And it is about a very rich, what's the male version of heiress? I don't know, a guy whose dad owns a very big company, kind of like Apple, and he makes fun of this one girl in class because she is from a low-income household, and she decides to fire back at him, and they kind of have an argument in class. And then down the road, the guy says, why don't we trade lives for a week or two in order to see how the other person lives, because I'm sure it's not easy for both of us. And that's basically what starts their romance. And the novel stars a Chinese main character, and her mom is amazing. She is such a feminist, she's such an advocate, and I really enjoyed her. But the thing that made me not like this novel was the fact that the trade portion of it, like them trading lives, was just so murky and not explained very well in the novel, so I was just kind of confused for most of it. And like, I felt like the romance wasn't really there. I feel like they could have had more chemistry, they could have had more moments alone. So when they decided to fall in love with each other and like declare their love for each other, I was very about it. I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't feel like you're really in love with each other, because like you didn't have a lot of moments together. It's like a good diverse romance to read, but it's not the best one that I've read in the world. So next novel I read on audiobook, but I also have a physical copy because it's that good, and it is Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. And Crazy Rich Asians, if you have not seen the movie, what are you doing with your life? You need to see Crazy Rich Asians if you want to see beautiful people falling in love and being gorgeous in Singapore. Why not watch it? It's amazing. Crazy Rich Asians is about a girl named Rachel. She lives in America. She's a Chinese American woman, and she falls in love with Nicholas. And he says, well, why don't you spend the summer in Singapore with me, because my best friend is getting married? And she's like, free vacation, I'm down for it. And he's like, oh, by the way, I'm like super rich, like one of the richest people in Singapore. And she did not know that. And by the time she's already in Singapore and she finds out about that, she kind of realizes that his family has very different values from her family, because she comes from like a middle-class household, and his family is like the Kardashians of Singapore, and they're like insanely rich. Their family is very judgmental of people who are not from wealthy households, and they kind of judge her a lot. And it's just like, I feel like you should just watch the movie or read the book. I watched the movie first, and I'm kind of really happy with that, because while I was listening to this audiobook, which is amazing by the way, I love the narrator so much, while I was reading it, I was just picturing the movie, and I was picturing the characters and their outfits, and it was so fun to do that rather than picturing it by myself, because I would not do this story justice. So I don't plan on reading the second book until the second movie comes out, because I want to see the movie first and then read the book and just like kind of compare and contrast. This is definitely one of my favorite reads of 2019. It was just a blast. They translated this book into a movie so well. I feel like they took out certain parts, obviously. It still kept the soul of the book into the movie, and it's just like the characters are so amazing, and I just loved it so much, and it was just so good, and everyone's so pretty in that movie, and like, oh my god. Okay, on to the next book. The next book I read is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng, and I listened to this on audiobook because I listened to her other novel, Little Fires Everywhere, on audiobook. Really enjoyed that, and I decided to also listen to this one on audiobook, and I loved it so much that like a couple days after I finished the audiobook, I went to the Strand and I was like, I need this to add to my collection because it was so good. This is a story about a Chinese American household that is kind of falling apart after their prized favorite daughter dies. and it's exploring how the mother grieves, how the father grieves, how the siblings grieve, and how they all have different secrets that they're grappling with, and how they all viewed Lydia before she passed and like what they knew about her. And it was just such an interesting exploration of grief and how families are so complex. And I just love suburban dramas, and I feel like Celeste Ng does suburban dramas so well. I feel like she really gets how complex every family can be and how people have different secrets and different values and different goals that clash with each other. And it was just so good. It was just like the most perfect thing ever. If you're into suburban dramas like Big Little Lies or Little Fires Everywhere, I would highly recommend this one. It doesn't delve too deep into grief because I'm not really a big fan of delving into that topic, but it delves more into family issues and just like how that affects each person in the family, and how certain family members don't feel like they're being valued enough, and certain ones don't feel like they fit in the family and they're trying to escape the family. And it was just so good. I would highly recommend the audiobook, and I would highly recommend the physical novel as well, because I'm looking at the pages right now. It's only less than 300 pages. I feel like, ooh, almost spilled my coffee. I feel like this would be an awesome beach read. I feel like it would be really good, and I'm so glad I read this book. It was top notch. And the 20th book I read in 2019 is Intercepted by Alexa Martin, and I had so much fun with this novel. This is a romance novel about Marlee. She is dating a football player. Don't ask me the position because I never know. One day she finds out that he's cheating on her, and she's been dating him for like 10 years. So finding out that someone you've been dating for 10 years has cheated on you is kind of a really big blow to your entire life and your plans and such. So she moves out from his house, and she decides to really make a name for herself because she's been relying on this football player to provide for her, to control her, and now is the time for her to explore herself. While she is doing that, and while she's dealing with the really mean like housewives of the NFL and this team that her ex is on, she finds out that a one-night stand that she had is joining the team, and he is a new quarterback, and his name is Gavin, and they have some serious chemistry with each other. They've been thinking about each other ever since the one-night stand, and they clearly have some connections with each other. And he decides to prove to Marlee that not all football players are scumbag cheaters, and he decides to help win her over. And I really liked this novel. The only issue I had with it was there were so many conflicts. Gavin and Marlee had so many spats and fights, and he always tried to speak over her and control her, and I just felt like very repetitive after a while. And I was just like, can you just like fall in love already and just like stop fighting with each other? And it got old after a while. But that's not to say it's a bad book. I really enjoyed their chemistry with each other. I really enjoyed how Gavin treated Marlee because he was just like such a sweet man. He always put her first, and he always treated her right compared to her ex, who was trash. And it was just a fun novel. If you're looking for a sports romance, I highly recommend this. And the author herself is married to an NFL player, so like the things that she writes about, I feel like she knows a lot about being an NFL wife or girlfriend, and it was just such an interesting take to learn more about how the wives of NFL players have to deal with drama and stuff. And it was the romance novel I needed in order to just pick me up and entertain me for the weekend, and I loved it. So those are the 10 through 20th books that I've read in 2019. I really enjoyed this stack of books. I feel like my reading taste has gotten more specific, and now I don't feel afraid to DNF books, because if I don't enjoy a book, I don't want to finish it. I don't have time for that. I need to read good books only, and I'm really embracing that mindset, and I'm very happy with these books that I've read. So hopefully I can hit 100 by the end of the year, but like I said in my 2019 book goals, that's a very tentative goal. If I don't hit it, it's perfectly okay, because I'm not going to stress out about that, because there are bigger things to stress out about. So thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, because if you like and you subscribe, you are supporting me, which helps me create more videos, and it helps me know that you like these types of videos. I never say this. I have an Instagram, and I will link that down below, because I do like very aesthetic posts on there. So if you want to follow me there, I also talk a lot about books, update my stories daily if you want to see me like on a day-to-day basis. So yes, I will see you in another video. Be kind to each other. Be kind to each other in the comments and in life. And I will see you later. Bye!